Mark chapter 4, verse 35 through 41. That day, when evening came, he said to his disciples, he being Jesus, said to his disciples, let us go over to the other side. Now, pause for a second. Who is Jesus? He's the Son of God, most amazing person who has ever walked the earth, the one who died for all of our sins. That is who Jesus is, that loves us so much. And the disciples were the people that followed him while he was on earth. There was 12 of them. He poured his heart out to them. I mean, he gave it all for them. You know, they say like leave it all out on the field. I'm telling you, Jesus left it all out on the field for them and for us. But the disciples, they were Jesus's boys, you know. And it says this, though, that the evening came, and he said to his disciples, let us go over to the other side. Somebody say the other side. Now, verse 36, watch what it says. Leaving the crowd behind, they took Jesus along, just as he was in the boat, leaving the crowd behind. How many people know this, that sometimes when you want to better yourself, sometimes when you want to get out of your old life, old habits, old cycles, you got to leave some people behind. Some old friend groups, maybe you got to leave them behind. I would want to propose this to you. If you want to change and you want to become everything God's called you to be, the first step is simply this. Who do I have around me and who do I need to leave? Because there are some people that are supposed to be in your past for a reason. Maybe at some point when you get strong enough and you build your faith up enough and you love Jesus enough and you're more secure in who you are and who God's created you to be, then maybe you can go back and grab them. But there are some people in my life for years that I had to leave behind. Somebody say deuces. Is that still a word? I don't know, but leaving the crowd behind, they took him along just as he was in the boat. There were also other boats with him. Now watch this, verse 37. I'm going to read it off here because it's easier. A furious storm came up and the waves broke over the boat so that it was nearly swamped. Not fully, but it was nearly swamped. Jesus was in the stern, sleeping on a cushion. The disciples woke him up and said, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" He got up, rebuked the wind, and said to the waves, "Quiet, be still." Then the wind died down and it was completely calm. And he said to his disciples, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" They were terrified and they asked each other, "Who is this? Even the wind and the waves obey him." The title of this, if you're taking notes, which I hope you are, is simply this: I'm going to the other side. Look at your neighbor and say, I'm going to the other side. Will you pray with me? Lord, I thank you so much that you're just so good. God, I thank you, Lord, that even in worship, you already showed up. And even as we just magnified your name, God, that you showed up in this place. But God, I just thank you that you are just getting started. God, I thank you you've come here tonight to heal hearts, to help people persevere in whatever they're facing. There are some people who are in the storm of their life at this very moment. And God, I just thank you that you're letting them know that you are with them, that you're near them. And even though it might seem like you're asleep, God, I thank you you are not. And I thank you there is more to the story. So God, come, have your way. In Jesus' name we pray. And everybody says. So Cameron, wasn't always Cameron Adonie. I got saved when I was 22. For most of you, you know my story. I got saved when I was 22. Did not know about Jesus, though, until then. So I got saved when I was 22. And before that, I was a little hooligan running the streets of Plano. Treated it like it was the Hood and Oak Cliff, but I didn't. No one told me, so I just did my thing. But one time I remember I was out with my friends and we were at another friend's house and we were just, chilling and all that. And we ended up going home and it was like really late at night. It was like late. We stayed out, I think it was like 1 in the morning. And we were staying out and my friends started getting in this argument in the car. I'm thinking they were about to fight. And I was grouchy. I was really tired. I was really hungry. It was really late. And for some reason, my ADHD self had the idea to get really angry and scream. And they stopped the car and they're like, "What are you doing?" And I get out of the car and for some reason I book it and I just run. And I'm in West Plano over by the Dallas North Tollway and I just book it and run and I jump a fence. I don't know what I was thinking. I was in the moment, it sounded pretty good. And I said yes, and I just committed to it, and I just ran. And then after I sat there, and I remember I was sitting there on the other side of that fence, and I was it was one of the brick ones, you know what I'm talking about, that kind of that really nice neighborhoods that it has the brick perimeter fence around it. It was one of those, and I hopped it like I was like a hurdler in the Olympics. And I just sat there though, and I was like, what was I doing? What am I doing? So they're like, okay. So about 3 or 4 minutes, give a little bit of time. I jump up and I hop back over and I walk back, and it's one of those streets where there's 2 lanes and in the middle there's a median. And I'm going back to the median. I see my friends coming. They're coming. They drive right past me. And I'm like, wait, what just happened? So I go to call them, get out my phone, and my phone is dead. So I'm like, oh no, what do I do? I sit there for a few more minutes, and no lie, all of a sudden, they do not come back. So I'm sitting there in West Plano. I live all the way in East Plano, and I have this thought, oh no, I have to go to the other side. I start hoofing it, and I'm walking down the street. I cannot tell you how long I walked for, but I can tell you this. I was so sweaty, I was so annoyed, and I did not know what to do. There were points where I was like literally crying because I was like, what is happening to me? Well, I walk and I find a gas station. After walking like 2 miles down this road, I get to this gas station off Preston, and I walk up, and there's nobody there. So I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I'm just like waiting. I don't remember people's numbers. I had no cash on me or no money because I was a broke senior in high school. And all of a sudden this guy in a Hummer rolls up. I'm talking, he rolls up. And I mean, he's like the Hulk with a headband on, and he has like True Religion jeans and these boots that are super pointy and like bedazzled, and he has on this white shirt, and he has like, if he had chest hair, it'd be out, but you can tell he waxes it because he was kind of like a Guido, you know what I'm saying? And super swole. So I go up to him, and I'm like, mister, and I explain this story, and he looks at me, and he's really, really confused looking, but he's huge. He's like, oh, yeah. I know what to do. And he starts saying this. I'm not lying. This is what he tells me. He's like, I was right where you are, man. I was right where you are. You're just a kid, man. You're just a kid. He's like, get in the car. So I get in the car, and I'm like, what is about to happen right now? I'm like, listen, I need to go to the other side, to East Plano. He's like, all right, I'll get you there. And he gives me his phone. I start trying to make some calls, but I couldn't remember numbers. Nobody was answering the ones that I did remember. And he's like, all right, this is what we're gonna do. I gotta stop at my girlfriend's house. And we're gonna go to my girlfriend's house. I gotta talk to her. And then I'm gonna go to my house. I'll take you to my house. And then we're gonna get you a ride back home. So I'm like, okay. So we get to his girlfriend's house. It's an apartment over there in West Plano. And he's like, okay. I was like, I'm about to go in. And he's like about to get out, and he's sitting there like pondering about something. And he's like, you know what? I need you to get out of the car though, because honestly, I just met you, man. I know you're just a kid, bro. And that's what he kept saying. And so I'm like, all right. So I get out of the car. I don't know how long I had to wait out there while they were doing whatever they were doing. But I was like, man, it took like 45 minutes. And he comes, all of a sudden though, I hear a door shut, and I see some walking back in his big old bedazzled boots. And he comes back to me, he's all right, sorry, man, get in the car. So I get in the car, and we go to his house. And I'm like, man, why are we going to his house? I'm just trying to get to the other side. And I'm in the middle of this, and I'm like, man, this is like way more work than I would have ever thought. But I was in the middle, and I had to somehow get to the other side. So I had to do what I had to do. We walk into this man's house, no lie. There was some dude just sleeping on his couch. And this is what he does. He walks up to him. He shakes him. He's like, hey, wake up, man, wake up. He's just a kid, bro. He's just a kid. And the guy's sitting there like, what are you talking about right now? Like, I don't know what you're saying. He's like, you got to take him home, man. You got to take him home. He's just a kid. So this guy gets up, and he's like, oh, my. It's like 3:30 in the morning. Now, watch this. This is the best part. He gets up, and he gives him his other car keys, because this guy was pretty loaded. Gives him the keys to the Jaguar. That way we can go. And he took me home. And before I went, for some reason, he just opened up his wallet. He's like, I know how it is, bro. I was there too. He hands me like $300. I was like that. And he's like, man. And then he's just like, I know how it is to be a kid. And then he walked away. And I go home, and I make it to the other side. But you know, as funny as that story is, it's a funny story, huh? True story. Cameron Adonie's life in Cameron Adonie's world. But here's the thing. I remember this, that when I was in the middle of that little journey, I remember thinking I was tired, I was afraid, I was alone, and I think I thought this thought over and over again. I think I made the wrong choice. Have you ever felt like you've made the wrong choice in something? You see, I've had, I'd say, a consistent pattern of starting things that at the moment, they sound really, really good. In the moment, it seems pretty easy, but once you get in the middle, it's a little bit more difficult. One time I tried to remodel my bathroom, and I did remodel it. It took like 6 months when it should have took like 6 days, but I started it and I was on fire and I was ready and it felt good. But then once I got in the middle and I started facing things that I didn't really know what to do in, started facing things that were a little bit out of my league, started facing things that were a little bit too difficult for me, I got into this place where I was like, instead of trying to figure it out, I ended up just quitting and letting that thing sit and letting that thing go. And I think a lot of times this is what happens in our faith. In our faith, sometimes it's easy to start. I think it's easy to start things. I found the hardest part a lot of times is when we feel we're stuck in the middle. The disciples we just read about, like me trying to get to the other side from West Plano to East Plano, they find themselves stuck in the middle. And they're sitting there, these disciples are like in love with Jesus, but they don't really know him 100% yet. They've been following him for a little bit, but not like too much. And they know Jesus, what's happening here. He had just taught like all these crowds of people. They had gotten a boat offshore and they were teaching. Jesus was teaching for hours and he was tired. Somebody say tired. He was so tired that he did what any tired person would do. He took a nap. Look to your neighbor and say, you look like you need a nap. Look at your other one and say, but not in here. But not in here. Jesus needed a nap. And it was crazy because he gets into this boat, and what does he do? He takes a nap. And it seems as when he starts to take this nap, as soon as he does, he's with the disciples, and the disciples notice something. The clouds start getting a little bit dark. Things start getting just that little bit, that humidity feeling where it's like, uh-oh. I think a storm is coming in, and what happens next was simply that. It says a furious storm came in. See, the disciples were very experienced fishermen. Their fathers, a lot of their fathers were fishermen. Most of them were fishermen for a living, which would mean this, that if they were in a storm, it was something that they were actually used to. They were used to being in the storms because you would go fishing a lot of times at night or in the evening, which was the main time that storms would end up coming through. So they knew how to handle storms. But what happened was, even though they've known how to handle it somewhat, they found themselves into such a deep place, such a dark place, that the storm came so fast and so furious that they did not know what to do. And what they did previously to help with what they were facing was no longer able to do it. Have you ever faced something in your life where maybe you've had to face depression before, but it comes in such a furious storm that what you did to try to help that depression before no longer worked? Maybe anxiety when it comes and it sweeps in at different times, but you can handle it in your own strength. But then in one moment, it seems, as you're going along the way, there's such a furious storm of anxiety that comes and it cripples you and it takes you out. And what worked before doesn't work right now. Maybe some of you have dealt with insecurity. And it's got you at such a place where it has crippled you. It's got you at such a place where it has hurt you, but you have been able to mask it. You have been able to hide it, but it's been coming so much recently, and the storm has been so much that you're no longer able to fix it. It's out of your control. What do you do when the thing that you are facing is so out of your control that you just don't know what to do? It's where the disciples were. They did not know what to do with what they were facing. And what was crazy was they were in the deepest, darkest storm of their life. And it was in the deepest, darkest storm of their life that they feel and they see that Jesus is asleep. It's like, Jesus, you're sleeping at this moment. I mean, these people saw everything that Jesus had done. I'm talking, they saw everything. They were with them when Jesus would heal all these other people. And they were with them when they would take the sick and they would help them. And he would heal people's hearts. And he would do all of these things. But it's like when they're in the deepest part of their heart, when they're in the hardest part of their life, Jesus, where are you? You ever felt like Jesus has helped everybody else, but it seems like when you get in your situation and you get in your hurt and you get in your pain and you're going through your storm, that he's nowhere to be found? That is exactly where the disciples were. And they were so at this place where they're like, Jesus, where are you? I think some people in here, if you're honest, you're in the middle of a storm right now. If you can be honest, if I'm honest, I'm in a little bit of a storm right now. And sometimes we get in such this place and we get into this storm where we've tried to hide it and we've tried to act like everything's okay. But if we're really honest, it's a little bit out of our control. And I want you to know that if you're in here tonight, you need to, 1, know you're not alone. 2, know there's a way out. And 3, we're about to help you solve it. We're about to help together figure out how to get out of whatever storm where you're in. Somebody say, I'm going to the other side. What are you in the middle of right now? And another question is simply this: what storm is trying to take you out? See, the disciples were helpless at this point. They didn't really know what to do. They were broken, they were lost, and they get to this point where they simply say, oh my, I'm about to go down. And they go and they wake up Jesus. Jesus, you're sleeping at this moment, and it's crazy that this is what they say to him. They don't go up to him and just say, Jesus, will you wake up? Because I need your help. They simply say this: Jesus, do you even care if we're about to drown? Isn't it funny that when we find ourselves in storms, a lot of times we forget who Jesus is, and a lot of times we end up blaming Jesus for the thing that we're going through. Because for these people, for the disciples, you know why they were in this storm? Simply because Jesus told them, we need to go to the other side. Wait. You mean Jesus sent them into this storm? Yes, he did not cause the storm whatsoever. He didn't want them to get hurt from it. He had no plan that this was going to take them out, but he knew the storm was coming because Jesus knows everything. He knows it all, and he sent them into this storm. And they're sitting there saying, Jesus, we were following your orders. We were being obedient to you. What do you do when you find yourself in the storm you're in? Simply because you were obeying what Jesus said. You were told that you're supposed to reach your family, and you start trying to reach them, and it makes this whirlwind. And you were told you're supposed to reach your school, but you start trying to do that, and everyone starts making fun of you. They start laughing at you. What do you do when you're in a storm? Simply because you're following Jesus. That's where they are. They're in the storm of their life, and they're asking Jesus, Jesus, do you even care? Jesus wakes up, wipes the sleep from his eyes, and it says this, that he looks at the waves and he looks at the water, and he says 3 words, because this is how powerful Jesus is. He simply says this: quiet, be still. Quiet, be still. I'm going to ask if Macy, can you come up here? Quiet and be still. Just 3 words were strong enough to silence the storm. That is crazy. 3 words: quiet, be still. And it doesn't say that the storm just kind of stopped. It said it became completely calm from 3 words from what Jesus said. Quiet, be still. He said that, but then he turns to the disciples, the ones who had seen him do everything. It's crazy, after everything God has done for us, after everything we've seen him do, after everything he saved us from, we can sometimes forget about that when the storm gets bad enough. I don't know about you, but sometimes the storm gets so loud in my life, and it's hard to remember everything God said, and it's hard to remember everything God done, because the loudness of the waves almost outweigh the memories and the loudness of God's promises and God's voice in my life. But you got to know this, that God is faithful, and God is good, and God cares. And sometimes we can think that he doesn't because we think that he's sleeping. But I want you to know this: God is not asleep. God is not asleep in your life. God is not asleep in your boat. God is ready and willing, and he's so good. He comes up to them and he simply asks these 2 questions. He's like, yo, guys, why are you so afraid? Where is your faith? After everything you've seen, you're so afraid. After everything that's happened, you're so afraid. And I love this, because this is what it says happens next. Oh, it's so profound. It says after this that he looks, and the disciples are sitting there thinking, and they almost can't even answer this question. It's hard for them to even answer this question simply because they're thinking about what just happened. See, they really at this point did not know who Jesus was. See, the enemy has a plan for your storm. He does. The enemy wants to use the storms that we go through to take us out. The enemy wants to use the storms that we go through to make us forget who God is. The enemy wants to use the storms in life to destroy us and ruin our faith and ruin our destiny and ruin the good things that God has for us. But even though the enemy has a plan, God has a plan too. And the enemies are sitting there, and the disciples are sitting there thinking, man, what just happened? These waves were so massive. These waves were so huge. All these things, we were about to die. And in a moment, he says, be quiet and be calm and be still, and it's done. They have this revelation in this moment, and it's so profound, because at so long they always thought, oh, no, the God of this world probably wouldn't be strong enough to be able to help us in this moment. But in a moment, what happened was it showed this, that there is no storm in life that can come against the power of the Savior. There's no storm in this world that can come against whatever it is that they would be facing, whatever it is that they would be battling, whatever it is that they would be going through. There is absolutely no storm in the world that can outpower the power of our God. See, God's plan for our storm is so amazing, because this is what it does. It shows the power of what he carries. See, a lot of times we think that God just lets us go through storms just because, but no, God a lot of times will let us go through storms because it shows us the faithfulness of who he is. Yes, Jesus was sleeping in this story, but he wasn't sleeping because he didn't care. He was sleeping because he knew that the disciples were going to make it. Because what happened? The enemy got so into their head with this storm that they forgot what Jesus had already said. Because what did Jesus say in verse 35? Put this back up there for me. Verse 35 in this story, that day when evening came, he said to his disciples, let us go over to the other side. Somebody say the other side. He said this, and this was a promise from God. We are gonna go over to the other side. See, he never said that we would never have to face storms. He never said that we would never have any trouble. He was just saying this, yeah, we have to go to the other side. And even though I'm not promising you won't face trouble, I do promise you that I will never leave you. I'll never forsake you. I'll never let you walk through life alone. I'm a friend that sticks closer than a brother. I will be with you every step of the way. And he lets them know, he's like, what are you doing? I said this word to you. I said we'd get over to the other side. But when the enemy gets so loud and he makes the storm so rough, sometimes we forget what God said. What has God said to you? What has he said to you in the past? What has he promised you about your future? Did he tell you he was going to save your family? Well, guess what? He is. Did he tell you he's going to use you to reach your school? Guess what? He is. Did he tell you he's going to use you to be able to change this nation and bring this nation back to God? Well, guess what? He is, because he is faithful to his word. Every promise God has given you. The enemy wants to send storms in our life to try to make us forget about everything that he said. But this is the bottom line. He is faithful, and he will make sure. It says that he watches over his word to make sure it doesn't return void. But what the enemy wants to do is use the storms to make us turn around or make us quit. How scary is it that so many people quit right before the storm maybe would stop, or they quit just because they get hit a little bit? But I want you to know it is so worth it. It's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it. It's going to be worth it. All you need to know is simply this. God loves you. He cares about what you're going through. He knows that you're in the storm, and even though he's letting you go through it, it's going to serve a purpose. The Bible says this, that he will work out all things for our good. That means that any storm that you have faced, any storm that you have been going through, any storm that you feel like is going to take you out, God says, no, I'm not going to let you go down. Because whenever you call on the name of the Lord, you need to know this, that he's always faithful. He's an ever-present help in our time of need. He's faithful to his word. He's faithful to his promises. You just got to have a little bit of faith. Where is your faith? Why do you still have no faith? You know what I found about faith? Faith is not me being able to see certain things. Faith is more about me saying, I remember what God said, and what God said is enough. God said, I'm going to the other side. I might be in a storm right now, but I trust his word. I might be going through hell right now, but I trust his word. He's faithful to follow through with every single promise he's given you, no matter what it is, no matter the magnitude of it, no matter if it's a large promise, a small promise. Every single promise he's given you, he will make sure it does not return void, because he's that good. Will you stand up with me right now?